Away from him, the woman holding her children tightly and wincing from their birth pains. A single leather glove reached down to her, but the man spoke not a word. Outside, the screeching began, again, blaring and horrible. Mina and the children cringed, but the man did not flinch. He cocked his head, and they could see that he had stuffed his ears with wax. He had prepared for this. Mina placed a shaky, untrusting hand into his. The man ushered the family outside, where a magnificent black mare obediently stood, awaiting the return of its rider. Its ears were also stuffed with wax, and it whinnied affectionately as the man helped the pregnant woman and children onto its back. On the tip of its fleshy nose, a stumpy, thick horn grew forth, caked with snot. Long, straight horns glistened above the animal's wide blue eyes, like black blades in the orange light. This was a rare horse. Only a few tricorns were known to exist on Erith, running free in the wild, forbidden land of Wendoa. 2 of them, however, were owned by Vorian Trenor, the reclusive wood hermit thought by many to have been a Siavon knight, and by some to be riddled with curse-induced madness. Mina now found herself wishing she had refused the stranger's hand. The screeching subsided into low growls as the dragon circled the town. Its very form blocked out the setting sun, completely submerging it in nightfall. The flapping of its wings sent a hurricane of wind down upon the land. It had now circled over Mina's house, and was peering down at the magnificent horse, which stood its ground despite the swirling winds. The man hiked himself up under the horse's back with Mina and her children, and with one arm holding him steady in front of him, reached out and twisted the reins around his fingers. He gave a sharp whistle and snapped them hard against the horse's black neck. With an excited neigh, it reared up on powerful hind legs, tossed its head, and took off. The speed was astonishing, and would have knocked Mina and her children from the mount had the man not held them steady. The tricorn stuck its neck out and pointed its long facial horns forward as it dashed onward, faster still. Bree cried out and ducked her head under the arm of her mother, her brother hugging onto her for his own sake. Mina found herself looking upward as the devilish shadow cast over them, and the beast glared downward with one furious golden eye. The family's dwelling was long in the past now, and they passed many more like it before breaking into the dark forest barriers which held in the town. This was a forest forbidden by mothers everywhere for their children to play in, for no one who entered came back the same. Some went mad, some stumbled out mangled, and others never came out at all. It was said these woods were cursed. It was also where Vorian Trenor was said to live. The tricorn's sword-like horns cut through the overgrowth of brush like butter as it charged forward into the dark, dizzying forest. Mina shut her eyes to steady her gullet as the trees whipped by, faster and faster. Behind her, their rescuer held her family fast and did not quiver an inch despite the rough ride. It was as if he were a part of the tricorn itself. His hood fluttered behind him, revealing his long mane of hair, as black as his speedy mount. A crash sounded behind them, and he turned his head slightly to catch the sight of the beast as it burst through the canopy of trees, and landed at last. It folded its wings back, and caught up to them in an ambling run. Smoke trailed heavily from flaring nostrils and singed the horse's long black tail. The ground around him was heating up. With another sharp whistle, he pulled the reins sharply to the left and veered the tricorn off course. The dragon thundered past them, bellowing in frustration, and turning its enormous head back to watch them gallop away. The tricorn snorted in return and pushed onward, its muscles burning hot under the touch of its rider's hand. The animal was beginning to tire. The dragon changed its course and continued to chase them, catching up quickly as before. Smoke billowed from its nostrils heavily, clouding its already poor vision. As the horse dashed forward, the dragon stopped in its tracks. It raised itself up on its back legs and began gasping. The wind of its heavy, laboring breath shook the trees around it. The tricorn, now a speck in a distance, took the opportunity to slow down. White foam dribbled from its lips and its muscles quivered. The man pulled back on the reins hard, and the animal halted and skidded on hot hooves. The family went lurching forward to be caught by the man's strong arms. Mina's contractions grew closer and more painful, and she held fast onto her children and cried out in pain. Her water broke out from under her dress and dripped down the sides of the sweating horse. Birth grew dangerously near. With a grunt, the man dismounted. He watched Mina and her family warily and opened one side of his cloak to reveal a long black sheath hanging from his belt, from which he withdrew a shimmering sword. The finely decorated hilt was cast from sparkling white gold, almost alive with beauty that winked enticingly in the dim-dabbled forest light. And embedded in the center was a flawless red ruby. "Do not follow me," he spoke for the first time in a voice low and calming. Mina did not object. Under her, the mare nickered. They watched the man walk briskly down the path cut clear by the horse's horns. The dragon sucked in air, the smoke now enveloping the forest around it. It watched him with a hateful glaring eye as he made his approach. He stopped a dozen steps away and raised his sword high.